Batman, 1966, once felt colorful, harmless, and eternal. The kind of show you thought would never age. Now, revisiting the cast is heartbreaking. Legends buried, survivors broken by time, and memories that hurt more than they comfort. This isn't nostalgia. It's a reckoning. Adam West as Batman. Bruce Wayne. Adam West was born on September 19, 1928, in Walla Walla, Washington, USA. He was 37 years old when Batman premiered in 1966, stepping into the role of Batman/Bruce Wayne, the deadpan superhero who anchored one of television's most recognizable pop culture phenomena. Before the cape, West was a capable dramatic actor, with films like Robinson Crusoe on Mars, 1964, suggesting a steady upward path. When the series ended in 1968, Hollywood no longer saw versatility. It saw a punchline. Offers dried up not because of scandal or failure, but because casting directors couldn't imagine him without the cowl. West went through 2 divorces before finding long-term stability with his third wife, Marcelle Tagand-Lear, whom he married in 1970. As lead roles faded, he endured years of career frustration and financial pressure. Instead of resisting the image, he learned to own it, reinventing himself through voice work and self-aware comedy, most memorably as an absurd version of himself on Family Guy. Adam West died on June 9, 2017, in Los Angeles, at the age of 88, after battling leukemia. Burt Ward as Robin as Dick Grayson. Born July 6, 1945, Burt Ward entered the world in Los Angeles, California, USA. He was just 20 years old, cast as Robin/Dick Grayson, the energetic sidekick whose acrobatics. Almost overnight, Ward became one of television's most recognizable young faces. But the cost was severe. Grueling stunts with little protection left him repeatedly injured, while relentless pressure led to a nervous breakdown and hospitalization at the show's peak. When Batman ended in 1968, the fall was sudden. Ward went through 3 divorces, each coinciding with periods of career instability and emotional strain. Attempts to revive momentum through television guest roles and the animated Batman series brought brief visibility, but never a true comeback. By the late 1970s, he largely stepped away from acting, carrying both gratitude and resentment toward the role that made him famous and cost him everything else. As of 2026, Burt Ward is 81 years old. He lives quietly, dedicating his later life to animal welfare and occasionally appearing at fan conventions. Julie Newmar as Catwoman. Julie Newmar, born August 16, 1933 in Los Angeles, California, USA, was already 32 years old when Batman debuted in 1966. Stepping into the role of Catwoman, she transformed into one of television's earliest symbols of sensual power and unapologetic female autonomy. At a time when women on TV were expected to be decorative or submissive, Newmar's Catwoman was something radical, confident, witty, and in control of her own desire. The role made her iconic almost instantly, opening doors to stage work, film appearances, and cultural immortality. In the 1970s, Newmar became a single mother to her son, John, who was later diagnosed with severe autism. Newmar chose her son and paid for that choice with a career that slowly slipped out of reach. As the years passed, she turned down roles, retreated from the spotlight, and focused on caregiving, even as physical challenges mounted. As of 2026, Julie Newmar is 92 years old, living quietly with ongoing health issues and rarely appearing in public. Cesar Romero as the Joker. Born on February 15, 1907 in New York City, Cesar Romero was 59 when Batman premiered in 1966, bringing to life a flamboyant, cackling Joker whose theatrical menace became a lasting pop culture icon. Decades before Batman, he had been a polished Hollywood leading man, starring in films like the Thin Man series and later musicals such as Ocean's 11, 1960. But by the 1960s, leading roles had faded, and age had quietly pushed him to the margins. The Joker became both a revival and a confinement. His performance was unforgettable, so much so that it eclipsed everything else. He never married, fiercely protected his privacy, and carried the burden of being permanently associated with a role that, while iconic, froze him in the public imagination. He continued working steadily through the 1970s and 1980s, but always as a nostalgic figure, respected, recognizable, and quietly sidelined. Cesar Romero died on January 1, 1994, at the age of 86 at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, due to complications from blood clots while being treated for bronchitis and pneumonia. Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. Burgess Meredith, born November 16, 1907, in Cleveland, Ohio, USA, was already 58 years old when Batman premiered in 1966, taking on the role of the Penguin, a grotesque, wheezing mastermind. Long before Gotham, Meredith earned acclaim on stage and screen in the 1930s and 1940s, then later redefined himself for a new generation in films like Of Mice and Men, 1939. The Penguin revived his visibility, but at a cost. Typecasting followed, even as he delivered deeply human performances elsewhere, most notably as the gruff trainer Mickey in Rocky, 1976, a role that briefly reminded audiences of his dramatic power. As the years passed, Meredith's health declined, and the sharp mind behind the Penguin slowly began to fade. He battled Alzheimer's disease, losing memory and independence, while also suffering from melanoma, a cruel double assault that stripped away the vitality that had fueled a career spanning 6 decades. Burgess Meredith died on September 9, 1997, at 89 years old, at his home in Malibu, California, from complications related to Alzheimer's disease and melanoma. Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. Born April 5, 1933, Frank Gorshin came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. He was 33 years old when Batman debuted in 1966. Exploding onto television as the Riddler, a manic, twitching villain whose nervous energy and sharp intelligence. Gorshin didn't just play the Riddler, he became him. The role earned him an Emmy nomination, rare recognition for a comic book villain, and briefly positioned him as the breakout star of Batman. As the series ended, Gorshin found himself trapped between brilliance and instability. Roles became inconsistent, and the emotional whiplash from sudden fame to quiet rejection began to erode his mental health. Through the 1970s and 1980s, Gorshin's life turned turbulent. He struggled with bipolar disorder and episodes of severe depression, cycling through periods of isolation and recovery. Work came in bursts. Appearances in projects like 12 Monkeys, 1995, late in his career, briefly reminded audiences of his range, but nothing restored the momentum he once commanded. Gorshin's final live appearance was in Say Goodnight, Gracie in Memphis, where he portrayed George Burns. After the performance, he flew back to Los Angeles on April 25, 2005, but suffered severe breathing difficulties during the flight and required emergency oxygen. He died 3 weeks later, on May 17, 2005, at age 72, from lung cancer complicated by emphysema and pneumonia. Yvonne Craig as Batgirl. Born May 16, 1937, Yvonne Craig came from Taylorville, Illinois, USA. She was 30 years old when she joined Batman in 1967, becoming Batgirl, television's first female superhero to fight crime on equal footing. The role made her an icon overnight, but the timing was cruel. When Batman was abruptly canceled in 1968, Batgirl vanished with it. Craig continued working through the 1970s with appearances in series like Star Trek, but leading roles never followed. The industry had celebrated her strength without knowing what to do with it afterward. Craig endured a divorce and later faced a long, exhausting health battle. In the 2000s, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which eventually metastasized. As treatments intensified, her public presence faded almost completely. Unlike many of her peers, she did not trade on nostalgia. She chose privacy, living with dignity while her image remained frozen in reruns and fan memory. Yvonne Craig died on August 17, 2015, at the age of 78, from complications related to metastatic breast cancer. Alan Napier as Alfred Pennyworth. Born January 7, 1903, Alan Napier came from King's Norton, Birmingham, England. He was already 63 years old when Batman premiered in 1966, cast as Alfred Pennyworth, the dignified, soft-spoken butler whose calm intelligence quietly held Bruce Wayne's double life together. Napier came to Batman with a long, disciplined career shaped by classical theater and years of restrained performances. Alfred became his most remembered role not for spectacle, but for quiet loyalty and emotional depth. After the series ended in 1968, that same subtlety worked against him as Hollywood shifted toward younger, faster-paced talent. In later years, roles faded, his health declined, and public recognition disappeared. While the show lived on in reruns, Napier himself slipped into obscurity. With no comeback, only a quiet withdrawal after a lifetime of steady, uncelebrated work. Alan Napier died on August 8, 1988, at the age of 85, at Berkeley East Convalescent Hospital in Santa Monica, California. Neil Hamilton as Commissioner Gordon. Neil Hamilton, born September 9, 1899 in Lynn, Massachusetts, USA, was already 66 years old when Batman premiered in 1966, portraying Commissioner James Gordon, the upright, rule-bound face of law and order. Long before Gotham City, Hamilton had already lived several Hollywood lifetimes. A star of the silent era who successfully transitioned into talkies, he saw leading roles fade as the industry changed. By the 1950s, his career had slowed to sporadic television work. Batman was not a comeback, but a final, familiar role for an actor nearing the margins. Off-screen, his later years were marked by declining health and isolation. Unlike many peers, Hamilton never found a second act. Commissioner Gordon became his last defining role, authority embodied by a man quietly losing control of his own body. Neil Hamilton died on September 24, 1984, at the age of 85 in Escondido, California, after suffering a severe asthma attack. Madge Blake as Aunt Harriet. Madge Blake was born May 31, 1899 in Kinsley, Kansas, USA. She was already 66 years old when Batman premiered in 1966, cast as Aunt Harriet, the warm, fussy maternal presence. In the 1940s, Blake survived a severe automobile accident that left her with lasting physical and neurological damage. The trauma affected her memory and speech, forcing her to relearn basic functions, a silent battle she carried long before cameras ever rolled. Acting became not just a career, but a form of recovery, with small roles in films like Singin' in the Rain, 1952, helping her regain stability. But the strain never fully disappeared. During Batman's run, Blake's health declined rapidly. She suffered multiple strokes, which increasingly impaired her ability to perform. By 1968, her condition worsened to the point that she could no longer continue on the series. Madge Blake was admitted to Huntington Memorial Hospital, where she died on February 19, 1969, at the age of 69, from a heart attack. Nearly 6 decades later, Batman, 1966, no longer feels colorful. It feels fragile. Time turned heroes into memories, villains into legends, and laughter into silence, leaving behind a cast that paid dearly for immortality on screen. If these stories moved you, stay with us, because every smiling classic hides a truth worth remembering. Truth